Okay, let's get started. Thank you all for joining us. This webinar is being hosted by parklaunch.com, which is an online community of distinguished Pakistanis globally established to support each other. I have the great pleasure of introducing my friend, Mr. Junaid Kalim from Kalim Holdings. He's been active in the real estate business since 2002 and has done buildings in Manhattan, New York, in Karachi, in Islamabad, in Dubai, and Turkey, and has a great wealth of information and experience, and is also a graduate of GIK and has done his master's from NYU. So I'll hand it over to Mr. Kalim to go over his presentation today. Thank you.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you very much, my dear friend Noman, for taking out the time to be the moderator here. I would also like to thank all the participants who've taken out time from their busy schedules to join this session. And especially I'd like to thank Ali from Park Launch for giving me the opportunity to share my experiences with all of you. So my name is Junaid Kalim. I live in Islamabad. I'm married. I have 4 kids. And let's go straight to the presentation. Host has disabled attendee screen sharing. Ali, can you please activate that so I can share my screen and presentation? Okay.
That's what you can do now. You're the host now. You can do that now.
Yeah. Okay, let me try again.
Yeah, try again.
Let me try the desktop one. Share. It's telling me to open the system preferences. Okay. So I'm having a bit of a challenge here, just trying to share my screen. It gives me the option of share screen. Can share at a time. Multiple participants can share simultaneously. Okay. All right, I think now it's working. So guys, can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. And do you see the panel on the top also, or?
Yeah, we're seeing the panel on the top too.
I should get rid of the panel. Just hang on for a second. Maybe bring the panel.
I think the panel will. Yeah. Perfect.
Okay. So the company is called Kalim Associates. Actually, it's a group of companies now, all of them related to real estate. And the topic that was given to me today is real estate landscape and opportunities in Pakistan. So I'll go through a quick introduction. I did my senior Cambridge from Beacon House, Islamabad in 1991. Then I did my FSc from PAF College, Islamabad, 1993. And then I went for my bachelor's in computer systems engineering degree from Ghulam Ishaq Khan Institute, followed by an MS in computer science in New York University, and then finally a diploma in real estate from New York. My career briefly is that my first job was with the Pakistan Tobacco Company, also known as British American Tobacco. Then I worked with Teradata, NCR. And then when I got into business, after my father passed away, I had to quit my job and set up Kalim Associates, which was a real estate business. And I'll go into the detail of that in the following slides. In 2006, I set up Kalim Trust, a social welfare trust, which is basically involved with free food centers, orphanages, and support to underprivileged families. Then later on, I set up Kalim Real Estate, Kalim Construction, and Kalim Management. which are related to buying, selling real estate, building homes, buildings, also property management. At 2014, we had holdings in New York as well as Peshawar and Islamabad. But in 2016, we made a decision to exit New York, and we entered Istanbul to have a diversified portfolio and some holdings outside Pakistan. In 2017, we invested in Dubai, and then at the moment, we have holdings in Peshawar, Islamabad, Gwadar, Dubai, and Istanbul. And 2020, which is this current year, I'm setting up two new companies by the name of Kalim Investments and Kalim Developers. Both will be based in Islamabad. Other than these, I've also been part of some voluntary roles in organizations like Open Islamabad, which is the organization of Pakistani entrepreneurs of North America. I'm also a member of the EO Islamabad chapter, which is the entrepreneurs organization. And I'm also the president of the GIK Alumni Association, which has 6,000 alumni in 70 countries. Now, just briefly going over the real estate holdings we've had over the years. My father invested in New York in 1980, and then we exited New York in 2016. He also invested in Peshawar and Islamabad in the early 80s, 1981, 1982, into residential as well as commercial properties. In 2003, after he passed away, I got into the home construction business in Islamabad, built several homes in Islamabad, main city and suburbs. In 2006, I invested and purchased properties in Gwadar, which included residential and commercial lands. In 2016, we invested in a residential building project in Istanbul. In 2017, I invested into apartments and villas in Dubai. And this year, my prime focus is the Islamabad suburbs. And I intend to develop residential, office, and retail space buildings over here. Now, I'd just like to speak about the global real estate industry in general. The total global wealth on this planet is $360 trillion. That's the value of the total wealth. Out of this, real estate represents $217 trillion, which is approximately 60%. So more than half of this planet's wealth is real estate. After that, if we sum up all the global stock markets of the world, they total to $95 trillion, which represents around 26%. And if we sum up all the gold in the world, that sums up to $9.5 trillion. That is approximately 2.6%. And just for comparison, the total global GDP is $138 trillion. So if we look at the bar chart, you can see that the global wealth is definitely more than all of them. But then second comes real estate. Real estate is even more than the annual global GDP. So this is where the planet's wealth resides. Now, briefly summarizing my own experiences ever since I got into business in 2002. Our New York real estate, which we held from 1980 to 2016, proved to be the best investment with in USD terms, an average annual gain of 25%. Just as good was the NASDAQ composite. It performed very similarly, also an annual gain of 25%. It went from 169 in 1980 to the current point, which is 30,100. This is NASDAQ composite. So our New York real estate performed just as well as the NASDAQ composite. Second to these was the Dow Jones Index, which went from 891 to 30,000 in the past 40 years, between 1980 and 2020. And after that comes the S&P 500 index, which has done 22% annual gain in USD terms, going from 119 to 3,635 during a period of the past 40 years. And then comes very close the Islamabad real estate, which in USD terms has done on an average of 20% annual gain in a period of 40 years. And after all of these comes gold, which has gone from $615 per ounce to approximately $1,800 per ounce in the past 40 years. And then, since all of these calculations were made in USD terms, the USD versus USD gain has been zero. So if you look at this bar chart, we can see that real estate has done really well, not only in New York, but also Islamabad in USD terms. So I have a firm belief that it is one of the best investments and should be a part of every investor's portfolio. Now I'd like to quickly go over what I am planning to do in the future. Real estate basically gives these 6 options for one to invest in. You can be a land developer who buys raw land and develops housing communities, examples of which exist in all around us, like DHA, Bahria Town, or CDA. These are housing community developers. This is one area of business one can go in. I have till now not decided or considered going into this line because it has a lot of challenges, especially in an environment like Pakistan. There are a lot of things which everyone might not be comfortable with. So this is an area that I have not considered or intended to enter. However, after this comes the area or the tier where you do multi-story, multi-unit apartment, office, or retail spaces. This business offers an annual return on investment of between 25% to 100%, or in a course of a project, it can be multiples also. So this is a very lucrative area. It is a high return and high risk tier of the business because it involves sales. Public money has to be generated for the project to go forward, because if you use your own entire equity in the land as well as the construction, then your ROIs will not be the same as you can achieve through leveraging from public money and off-plan sales. And this is the area where I intend to focus in the coming years, inshallah.
Junaid bhai, I'm sorry to interrupt. Can you make me the host, because we have like a lot of people waiting in the wait room that we can't let in.
Oh, okay. So let me exit the presentation and hang on. So how do I do this? I go in the participants and
just make me the host. Yeah.
So Ali and make host.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. There you go.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. No problem. All right. So let's resume. So we talked about land development and housing communities, and then I talked about multi-story, multi-unit apartment, office, retail spaces, which is basically multi-story buildings. These offer the highest return on investment, and this is my area of focus in the coming years. After this comes the tier of home construction. which are typically 1 canal, 2 canals, or even less in Marlas. I've been doing this business for the past 2 decades, and the average ROIs that I saw were 15 to 20% annually in this line of business. Another very popular investment in real estate is commercial rental units. People like to buy shops or offices which have tenants in them, and they just buy the cash flow. And the yield on that usually averages between 5 to 6% in the form of rent. And then there's also a 10 to 15% annual gain in the value of that unit. So that totals to approximately 15 to 20% annually. Similarly, buying residential rental units is another popular investment area. In this case, the yields are a little bit less than commercial units, ranging between 3 to 4% annually. And then the gain again is between 10 to 15% on average. So this also totals to approximately 15 to 20%. So pretty much it's the same whether you own a commercial retail space or office or shop and rent that out versus owning a house or an apartment and renting that. Slight difference, not a lot. And then another popular avenue that people invest is in buying plots on land and holding them for gain. And they too, on average, will give you 10 to 15% in developed cities, although off-plan developments, and there are examples of investments where you will make much more than this, but 10 to 15% is a conservative estimate, which will hold true in most markets. And then for the audience who have interest in investing in real estate, again, you have all of these options which I mentioned earlier, depending on your the kind of equity you have, depending on how much risk and how much return you are comfortable with. These are basically these 6 tiers. Once again, let's go over them quickly. The first tier is land development in housing communities. The second is constructing multi-unit, multi-story buildings. The third tier is building homes. And then the fourth tier and the fifth tier are for passive income or passive investors who don't want to get involved 9 to 5 with the real estate business. So they will just buy rental units, shops, offices, houses, apartments, or plots. And then another area is real estate investment trust funds, which haven't really picked up in Pakistan, but are an established avenue of investment internationally. And in that, you don't own a property directly, but you invest in something like a mutual fund, which owns properties, and you get a share of the rental yields. So these are basically 6 areas that investors can go into. And you, depending on your equity, you always have the opportunity to become an equity partner in the start of a project, being on the developer side. Or if you can't afford the lump sum equity, you can always be a buyer of one of these projects on installments if you buy it off plan, or lump sum once the property is ready. So this basically covers the presentation. We are done with 20 minutes. I would be happy to take questions and answers. And I know we have a hard stop at 10 p.m. because we've got another presentation. So over to you, Noman Bhai.
The first question that we have is from Irfan Khan. Please do share investment opportunities available right now in Islamabad, ready to move in or ready for possession if land.
So like I said, in Islamabad, if you look at the residential market, the price of 1 canal residential starts at 60 million and goes up to 100 million. This is residential in CDS sectors. However, if you go into the suburban areas like Gulberg Greens or Multi Gardens, B17, then the prices come down. So like one canal residential may be bought for 15 million rupees in Multi Gardens B17. So, you know, the answer to this question depends a lot on the budget you have for your investment and also the kind of risk and return you expect. If you buy a property of 10 million, if you buy a rental property of 10 million rupees in Pakistan, you should be able to get a monthly rental income of 40 to 50,000 rupees from it. So this is another example, but specific opportunities cannot be identified without knowing more detail about the investor's criteria.
Our second question is from Hassan Basharat. He said you mentioned that you have investments in Gwadar. How do you see it going forward?
So I think Gwadar it could be the next Islamabad of Pakistan if it is done rightly. It is a city being built from scratch. The Gwadar right now is perhaps the Islamabad of the 1960s and 70s. But the big question is when and how and if it will become the Islamabad within our lifetimes or not. There are a lot of reasons and evidence which support that it will. First of all, it is very important for China as a part of its BRI, the Belt Road Initiative. It is one of those 6 routes through Gwadar which China is very, very interested in. It is also very important for the Pakistan government because it has a lot of financial benefits which our government can reap through. However, unfortunately, on ground, the pace has not been as fast and as speedy as one would have liked to. So I've invested in Gwadar since 2006. I'm very optimistic about it, but nobody can predict the future of Gwadar. I hope it becomes what everybody is dreaming of within our lifetimes.
We have another question from Kashif. He would like to ask the question himself. So Kashif, you can ask the question.
Yeah, thanks, man. Hi, Jagay, Kashif Mansoor here. First of all, great presentation. Answers a lot of at least my questions. I have a more of a philosophical question that I would say relates a little bit to what you have presented, but I would like to ask it anyways. So in IT, you know, my background being in IT, a lot of these larger companies like Facebook and Apple, one of the metric that they use to push their stock price and increase their margin is revenue per employee. Now, traditional companies like IBM and Oracle and other companies, they have actually a lower value of that KPI than these companies. And the result of this is massive unemployment. Now, when I look at the real estate investment in Pakistan, and I'm sure in other countries as well, it is considered a safe investment. A lot of upper middle class people, like majority of the people on this call, would invest, and they are in no rush to sell. So they can hold on to their investment. And given that in my high level perception, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the number of employment to a dollar invested in real estate would probably be very high, which means that if I invest in real estate, then my dollar is not going to produce as many jobs in the country as if I had invested in, let's say, some other company in manufacturing or some other startup. So that kind of creates a little bit of moral guilt personally for me. Is this something that you think real estate sector in general need to concern, or you think this is just not that important?
Thanks for that question, Kashif. It's a pleasure to have you. We were in the same hostel and GIK, the same class between 1993 and 1997. And Kashif was the smartest guy in our class. So I'm very pleased that I'm answering a question for Kashif today. Real estate industry has two sides. One is the end user or the end customer who buys or rents the final product, which can be a shop, an office, an apartment, or a house. So there's the end user side. But then there is also a developer, builder, and constructor side. The side which takes raw land and constructs communities on it, buildings on it, houses on it, etc., etc. That side is very labor intensive, and it directly employs labor, but indirectly supports a lot of industries. Many economies that we look at, and the examples that come to my mind in our immediate neighborhood are like Turkey, China. The construction booms in these countries have really, really impacted positively their economies. For example, let's take the example of Turkey. Between 2005 and 2015, this decade, the per capita income of Turkey went from $1,000+ to approximately $13,000 per capita. That's almost a 10 times increase. But Turkey did many other things also, but their construction industry was one of the key industries, which was the driving force. Similarly, last year, I was in China along with Noman Bhai on a workshop related to CPEC, and we got to visit Gwadar as well as Beijing. And in Beijing, we met some Chinese who told us that Pakistan is pretty much on the same path that China was a couple of decades ago. Now is the time to invest in the construction industry in Pakistan, infrastructure, everything which basically adds value to raw land, because this is the first thing which requires to happen before any of the other things will happen which have occurred in China. So I personally think that the real estate and the construction industry can add a lot of value to the overall economy from the developer, builder, and constructor side.
Muhammad Umar is from Karachi, has a question for you, so I'll yield the floor to him.
Hello, Assalamu alaikum, Junaid bhai. I hope you're fine. So I have a very small question. So the thing is, like, I've been doing, property flipping in Karachi. So what I do is that, I'm not sure if you're aware or not, but there are a lot of builders. What they do is that they build portions, and you pay them bookings, and in 4 installments you have to pay the whole price. So what I do is that I pay them the booking and the amount like that is required, like maybe 25-30% of the cost. And then if I find a buyer, I'll just flip it. I'll just get the extra amount, or even at times, even if I have to pay the whole amount in 6 months, I'll get the return maybe like on the average is like if I buy something at 41 lakhs, I get back like 45 or 46 lakhs back.
Umar, I'm sorry to butt in, but portions that are being built in Karachi are illegal. And they are illegal investments. And right now, the Supreme Court and the High Court and the government is clamping down very hard on it. So it is my humble suggestion to you that you should avoid any and all investments in portions, because going forward, any portions that have been built might be torn down also. Case in point is a portion that was built in North Islamabad that is a ground plus 6 structure. It is on the demolition block. There are many other portions that are being built in Dastagir, that have been built in PCHS, illegal townhouses that are on the chopping block, and I have seen them being demolished in front of me. My friend's house, which was right next to Hill Park, was demolished. 6 houses were demolished in one day. and here it had been his family home for the last 20 years. So I implore you to not invest in portions, and to also stay away from it because it is totally illegal. Jad bhai, you can answer the
Okay.
question now. Sorry.
So
Yeah, please complete your question. And for the knowledge of everyone, Noman Bhai himself is a developer in Karachi and also sits on the executive committee of Abad, which is all uh, builders and developers association. So we have another expert on real estate over here. And thank you for that input, Noman Bhai. Thank you. Can you please complete your question? I couldn't understand. You just. Uh,
so the next again, then I'll have to pivot. So given the fact that what Noman Bhai has just mentioned right now, what are the opportunities that I have, like maybe in Islamabad or any other place, where I can invest like short terms? I need short term gains. I don't want to go long. So for example, pay 10 million and then wait for 2 years to get the return back. I cannot do that. I simply want investments where I put my stuff for like maybe 3 months, at max 1 year, and then I get the return back. So do you have anything in mind,
what
particularly for that? Thank you.
what is the return on investment you're making with your current model?
So I'll tell, I don't know in percentage, but generally, so at time it varies. So for example, recently I bought, I paid booking. Like after paying booking, like after 1 or 2 days, I got like that value back plus 1 lakh. So it basically varies. Generally, I get like on 40 lakhs, I get like 4 or 5 lakhs in three to four months.
All right. Okay. So, first of all, you need to look at your investments from an annual return on investment point of view. For example, if you invest 1 million for a year and you make, let's say, 100,000, you have just made approximately 10%. Okay. One benchmark that all investors should keep in mind is what banks in that country are offering. So, for example, the banks in Pakistan are currently offering 5 to 6% on deposit. So, if you're going to take the risk of investing in another area, you should at least be making 5 to 6%. Otherwise, there is no incentive for you to take that risk. So, this is the minimum you should be looking at. Then other factors should also be incorporated. The inflation in this country is approximately 10%. That is something which your investment should cover. So your buying power, you don't lose your buying power, or your capital doesn't lose buying power. Another factor that investors may consider is the dollar devaluation of the Pak rupee. That has been approximately 7.5% annually over the past 40 years. So adding this 10% and then a 7.5%, that's approximately 17.5%. So maybe investors who are full-time investors, 9 to 5, they should not be investing in anything which yields less than 20% annually. But passive investors who've got 9 to 5 jobs or other businesses, for them, this stringent criteria may be relaxed, and they may opt for lower risk and lower return investment opportunities also. So please look at your annualized ROI, return on investment.
The next question is from Bilal Ejaz. I will yield the floor to Bilal Ejaz now. Bilal?
Yes.
Okay. So my question is that basically, we have seen in like since 2015, I guess, or 16, the prices in Pakistani real estate has been stagnant. And so recently during COVID, the present government rolled out a lot of policies supporting construction industry. And so as a result, I wanted to know how has those policies affected the real estate prices in Pakistan? Like in different cities in Islamabad, Lahore, and Karachi? And secondly, like, what do you see, like, what do you see? What's your assessment regarding the future policies of the government?
So ever since July, when the construction amnesty scheme was announced, up till now, I have witnessed an approximate 20% increase in prices in Islamabad and around Islamabad. And I think the similar percentage would hold true in other cities. Noman Bhai can correct me. We've seen approximately 20% jump.
That's true.
Yeah, so same in Karachi. And the primary reason I see behind this is that in the amnesty scheme, a lot of undeclared wealth, untaxed wealth, which people had outside the tax net, has become part of the formal economy, because the government has said we will not ask you about the source of this wealth. Just buy property, whiten all of your money, and then take a fresh start. So I see that this as one of the primary factors for the recent jump in prices in the past 6 months. Regarding the future, one way to predict that is based on data from the past. And I have data for Peshawar, Islamabad, and also for Gwadar for the past few decades. I do expect real estate across Pakistan in all cities and neighborhoods to appreciate in value on an average of 10 to 15%. There will be years when the appreciation will be zero, as witnessed between 2016 and now. And then there will be years where it will be more than that, 20, 30, or even percent. But 10 to 15% is an average. The important thing worth mentioning over here is that there is genuine need for good housing, office space, retail space in this country. If you just look at Dubai, it alone has more malls than all of Pakistan. There is a genuine need. And I think there is a lot of scope and potential and demand for investment in this industry in the next few decades, or even during our lifetimes. This industry is undersupplied. There is a huge demand and the supply is not keeping up with it.
Okay, one thing which another question which comes to my mind is that the government policies, like, you know, the
Hello. The next question that we have is from Sardar Ahmed Durrani.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Sardar Ahmed Durrani, sir.
I'm right here. Hi, thank you so much for the presentation. It's been great so far. Eye-opening in some aspects as well. I have a question with regards to a slightly larger project. So we are a private equity shop based out of Hong Kong, and Pakistan is definitely one of our core markets. We've been looking at all industries, including power, including private sector, growth equity. One of the key principles, obviously, you know as well, is exits. So for a large institutional investor like us coming into the real estate sector, you think the REIT market has developed enough in Pakistan for large-scale investors to come in and get out quickly enough as well? And then if so, what would a typical time horizon look like from day of deployment to day of exit? Thanks.
So if I've understood your question correctly, you're specifically talking about setting up a REIT in Pakistan. Is that correct?
I believe
Yes.
that he's
setting up a REIT, and also finding out if not, then what are other exit strategies where large-scale investment deployment can be made? And then
REIT as an he wants to know if REIT is an exit strategy available.
Oh,
because
okay. So so far in Pakistan, there are two REITs that I know of. One is the Dolman REIT, and the other is the TPL REIT. And these are definitely...
Excuse me, TPL is not a REIT. TPL is a public limited company that is investing in properties. The second REIT is the Islamabad Stock Exchange Tower. So those are the two REITs that are available right now. And the TPL Properties is a public limited company, because TPL Properties dates back before the REIT came into being. So
Right.
TPL Properties is a public limited company that is building real estate and then exiting through their shareholders sell their shares on the stock market.
Okay, and I think one is based on the Dolman
Yes.
building. So first off, as an end user, the yields that a REIT will offer are not very attractive, because the developer himself is making a yield of close to 10% or less than 10%, you know. So if you come, you buy land, you develop a building, you rent it out, you'll probably make 10%. From that, you will deduct your management fee, other expenses. To your investor on the stock exchange who's buying your REIT, he will definitely make less than that. So it's not a very, very attractive investment opportunity from an end customer point of view. If you're going to offer him something the same that a bank deposit offers him. However, the area or where the opportunity I see for someone like you coming from overseas is to develop multi-story, multi-unit apartment buildings, office space, retail space, malls. That's the area. And you should look into the model where you do off-plan sales. So you've acquired the land, you've started work, you do off-plan sales, and your equity gets leveraged automatically by the bookings or the advance sales you do. That increases your ROE, return on equity. If you're unable to do that, still you should be able to make a minimum of 20%, 25% return on equity, even if you do the entire project with your equity, land plus construction. And Noman Bhai can correct me if there's anything, because he's exactly in the same line too.
So before Noman Bhai responds,
Sure.
if I may just add, thank you. The REIT part I completely understand. So as an investor then, the second option is to come in as a developer yourself. So now therein lies the problem. We are not operators, right? So then we'll have to partner with someone like Noman Bhai or other developers, where again the project horizon becomes elongated, because then we have to wait for those individual sales. It pretty much becomes a unit sales process. Is there
No, it does. There is a way, Sardar Bhai, if you can give me a minute. In the REIT, there is a hybrid REIT model available in our regulations, which basically says that you buy the plot, you develop the plot, and then you sell a portion of it, and you rent out a portion of it, and then you can sell it. Within 3 years, you have to do an IPO. So once you do your IPO, that's an easy exit strategy available to you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
If you want, if you send in your email address, I'll email you the REIT regulations for you to better understand.
Jeannie, we can pull them out, but I would definitely reach out to Ali and get your contact as well, because I think there's
Sure.
a lot to be dug in here as well. But enough for me to kind of salivate at least. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. The next question is from Soban Jalil. Any plans to think on developing an affordable housing and ecosystem in smaller cities like Topi near GIK to diversify urban style living?
Hello, Soban. Good to have you. Soban is a part of our executive committee in GIK Alumni Association. Soban, I am looking into going into the suburbs of Islamabad with this exact aim, buying cost-effective land and building apartments, office space, and retail space for the middle class or the lower middle class. That is my target market now. It is a shift from the market I have been working in, which was main CD Islamabad. This market is now becoming an elitist market. Its buyers and sellers represent perhaps the top 1 or 2% of the Pakistani population. So in the coming years, I intend to shift my focus from this market. There is definitely a potential for housing, retail space, and office space in the second tier cities of Pakistan also. And then, of course, the third tier too. So Topi and Swabi, which you have specifically mentioned, is where GIK is, where all of us spent 4 golden years of our lives. That is, I would rate that as perhaps in the third tier or the second tier. They definitely need good quality housing. And as you see, slowly and gradually, these housing communities and projects are expanding outwards from all the major cities. It's happening in Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad. Islamabad, on one end, has gone up to communities like B17, which are 15 minutes on the GT roads towards Peshawar. Even further, there are communities coming up. On the other side, there are communities towards Murray, Baria Golf City, which is outside Islamabad boundaries in the vicinity of Murray. That's another example. And the third area of expansion is Rawat going towards Lahore. So yes, there is definitely horizontal expansion and growth into the suburbs of Islamabad.
The next question is from Atif Ghafoor Mirza. The next question is from Atif Ghafoor Mirza. Can you unmute? Well, his question.
Hi, Junaid, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear.
Junaid, you mentioned that you were focusing on the suburbs of Islamabad. I just wanted to know, is there a particular zone or side of Islamabad that would be your focus? Of course, there's this the Rawat side. There's this B17 kind of new airport side, and then there's this Bahari Enclave, Park Enclave side. Is there one you would kind of put over the others, or you see there are other pros and cons of each side of Islamabad? Thank you.
Instead of specifically recommending one area over the other, let me answer your question in another way. I am intending to do my next project in B17, Multi-Professional Cooperative Housing Societies project called Multi Gardens. This is something I'm doing. But, I would not like to recommend one area over the other specifically.
Okay, understand.
The next question, I got a question from the audience that were asking me about what portion investments is. Well, in Karachi, you have a lot of different illegal activities that go on. We have a lot of Kachi Abadis that basically are squatter colonies that become regularized by the government, and then a mushroom growth happens in those areas. Similarly, in the residential areas of Karachi, contractors are making ground plus 2 flats, which on plots that were destined for single family homes. So they are making multi-family dwellings on single family lots, and those are illegal in the sense that those plots are meant for single family housing, and they're using all sorts of shady procedures to get subleases and stuff, which is all illegal, and they've been ruled as illegal by the government and the Supreme Court and the High Court. So that's what portion investments is all about. Just like what you guys might have heard about China cutting, it is similar to China cutting in Karachi. The next question is from Muhammad Ali. Any development expectations from DHA Islamabad Phase 2 invested and waiting since 15-16 years?
DHA Phase 2?
Yes, Phase 2. I believe that there is Phase 2 extension. I think there's something wrong. I don't have any idea about it.
Okay. Phase 2 is developed. 50% of the plots have been developed. People are living there. He probably is confusing Phase 2 with another phase.
Maybe.
Phase 2 is well developed, several thousand families living there.
Okay, Amir bhai, Amir Ahmed has another question. Amir bhai, can you ask your question?
Sure. Assalamu alaikum, Junaid bhai. Actually, I have recently heard that there are some expected changes in the mortgage regulations in Pakistan, which would make it easier for banks to provide mortgages. So do you see that happening in the next couple of years? Because if that happens, generally a lot of credit would be available and the housing prices and the real estate pricing in general would go up. So do you see that happening?
So I would like Noman Bhai to answer this question. Just making one quick comment. The mortgage industry in Pakistan has not rivaled or developed as it is in the Western world. The moment this industry starts giving 20, 30-year mortgages like you see in the West, it will definitely be a boom for the real estate market. But I would like Noman Bhai to answer this question instead.
The problem with our mortgage market was that our interest rates are very high. Our KIBOR rate right now is 7%. So with a 3% spread on top of that, our current mortgage rate will be somewhere around 10%. And it can go as high as 20% in some years. Our average interest rates are somewhere between 14 and 15% year on year. So it's very hard for anyone to make a mortgage payment based on those criteria. However, the task force on housing has now done a new program where the government is facilitating housing loans to low income housing, which means that houses up to, I believe, 3 million are being financed at 5%, and housing over 3 million and to up to 4.5 million is being financed for like at 7% and stuff like that. So once these low cost housing loans enter the market, and the private banks have been given the mandate to give out those loans and get a refinance from the state bank. So I believe that in the times to come, we're going to see a lot more stock of low cost housing being developed by developers and financed by banks. What used to happen was that we did not have foreclosure laws whereby banks had a very lengthy process of selling the property because they have to go to court and they get a decree, and after they get the decree, they have to go and get an execution, and then the property can be auctioned. But now the Supreme Court has allowed for summary judgments to be passed and for this process to be condensed down to 3 months. So if someone does not make a payment, he'll be out of the house in 3 months. So I believe that going forward, it's not going to affect the housing prices because the low cost loans are only available up to 6 million rupees. But there will be a lot more developers that are going to be enticed in creating housing stock for the low income group and for creating affordable housing in Pakistan. So that's how it remains.
Got it. Thanks a lot.
Okay, Junaid Ahmed, you have a question?
And we have 5 minutes more to go. So
No, I don't have a question. I was just clarifying the previous question on the DHA phase 2. I think it was for phase 2 extension, which aspects of the DHA system been developed at all.
I don't think that we'll have a specific information on DHA phase 6 because that's going very specific, and we don't want to do specific right now. Irfan Bhai has a question for Junaid Bhai.
Ji, go ahead.
Irfan Khan.
Assalamu alaikum. Junaid, I have two comments. One is, I mean, you are in this business. So I was wondering, I mean, I was just thinking if it's possible, start with like setting up GK alumni houses, like sort of a guest houses for the alumni. I mean, we can all fund them. and in all the major cities. So whenever we visit, we know where to go. At least if we don't have any, specific place in a Karachi, Lahore, or somewhere, at least we have a Jiki Alumni House there, and just an idea. The other thing I was going to ask was that if you have some sort of a special investment opportunity for members of this forum, I mean, one of the major thing is the trust, that we can't just trust anybody. So if you have an investment opportunity for the members of the forum where we can maybe join hands or something, that'll be great. Thank you.
All right. So you said houses for GIK alumni. How about apartments? I am in the process of planning apartment buildings, and the idea crossed my mind to have buildings with occupants or inhabitants who share something instead of strangers living next to strangers. So this is an idea I am working on, and the GIK alumni, before anyone else, will be hearing about them. Offering investment opportunities is not something suitable on a forum like this. You can always contact me privately, but it would not be appropriate for me to discuss specific investment opportunities with me or a particular project on a forum like this. Please feel free to keep in touch with me directly after this presentation. Thank you.
Sure, thank you.
The next question is from Kashif Salim, and I think this will be the last question today. What's the scope of commercial market? Because generally the return on commercial plots is more than residential plot, but there is a shift in Western markets. Do you think that the slump in commercial property would be felt in the next 5 years or so in Pakistan as well?
I personally don't think that there's going to be a slump in the commercial or the residential market based on the demand. There is a need for both. There is need for good housing, good office space, good retail space, all of them. So I personally don't foresee a slump in any of these areas. Now, how they compare with each other, whether residential is better than commercial, this varies from neighborhood to neighborhood and city to city. Prior to 2016, the residential real estate in Islamabad, CDA was doing phenomenally well because people also had the option to set up offices inside homes. So instead of occupying a big commercial floor or office, they would just go get a big house, 4 or 5 canals. In 2016, the regulations changed and no commercial activities was allowed inside homes. As a result, all that activity had to shift to commercial space, and there was a boom after 2016 in the commercial and retail space of Islamabad. So this is a specific event in a specific neighborhood of a specific city. We cannot just pass such sweeping broad statements that in the coming 5 years or a decade, all the commercial real estate in Pakistan will be in slump or a boom.
Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us today. The next presentation is going to be a fireside chat with Shoaib Makani, who is the CEO of Keep Trucking. It's going to be a great presentation by him, and Keep Trucking is probably going to be one of the unicorns that, just like Karim, that we're going to be very proud of as Pakistanis, because it's being picked up by a Pakistani, and most of his back end is also being done in Pakistan. So I'll hand it over to you, Ali Bhai.
Thank you so much. Thanks, Junaid Bhai. Thanks, Noman Bhai, for the session. So we'll transition to our next session. We'll start in a minute. So if you want to stop sharing, Junaid Bhai, we'll transition to the next session. Our moderator will be Dr. Hamad Khan and Dr. Varda Inam. So Hamad, Shoaib, and Varda, are you folks there? If you want to turn on your cameras.
Yeah, hey there, I'm here.
Hey, Shoaib, good to see you. Hey, Shoaib. Hamad Are you there?
I'm here. Yes, I can see Varda as well.
Okay. And Varda, do you have?
Are we okay to start? Are we giving it a couple of minutes?
I think if you just give it like just 1 minute, and I think then we can start, if you don't mind.
Hey, Hamad, can you remove this from Facebook and then also the recording?